The movie begins in 1990, inside a church during a joyful wedding ceremony. Paul the groom is beaming with happiness. He's finally marrying the love of his life, Sophia. But to truly understand how Paul won Sophia's heart, we're taken on a flashback to the past. We learn that Sophia is a famous actress, a household name whose face graces magazine covers and TV commercials everywhere. One night, Paul shows up at her villa and knocks on the door. William, her bodyguard, answers. Dressed in a sleek suit and holding a single rose, Paul politely asks to see Sophia. He tells William that he's here to propose and wants to ask for her hand in marriage. With a hopeful smile, he even asks if William thinks Sophia will say yes right away or need some time to think about it. But William is visibly concerned. He sternly tells Paul to leave, warning him that if he doesn't, he'll call the police. Paul, trying to keep things calm, insists that he means no harm. He just wants to make his proposal, and if Sophia says no, he promises never to bother her again. That's when the twist hits. William reveals that Sophia doesn't even know Paul exists. It turns out Paul isn't Sophia's fiancé or even someone she knows. He's just an obsessed fan, deluded into believing he has a relationship with her. William gives him one last warning to leave before things escalate. Paul responds with a strange laugh, then slowly walks away. But moments later, he returns, this time with a knife pressed against his own neck. He threatens to end his life if William doesn't let him inside to talk to Sophia. Trying to de-escalate the situation, William speaks calmly, urging Paul not to hurt himself, telling him no one is worth dying over. He asks him to put the knife down. Paul refuses. He keeps insisting he loves Sophia and can't live without her. His delusion deepens. He starts addressing William as if he were Sophia, pouring his heart out and even presenting a wedding ring. William, fearing for Paul's safety, plays along, hoping to defuse the tension. Paul begs, "Say you love me," and William replies, "I love you," trying to keep him calm. It's now heartbreakingly clear. Paul is mentally unwell, completely detached from reality. He drops to one knee and proposes to William, genuinely believing he's standing in front of Sophia. Suddenly, Paul lunges at William and stabs him in the stomach with the knife. Then, he storms into the villa, frantically searching for Sophia. When he can't find her, he starts behaving as if the house is his, eating, drinking, and even taking a shower completely at ease. Meanwhile, William is bleeding out in the garden. Months later, we learn that Paul was arrested and placed in a psychiatric facility. William's injuries turned out to be non-life-threatening. As for Sophia, the incident plunged her into a deep depression. To recover, she took a break and traveled with her boyfriend, Rhodes. Upon returning, she installs a full security system at the villa, including a guard at the main gate. Despite everything, she insists that William remains her personal bodyguard. He's the only one she truly trusts. Later, William visits to check on her, and she introduces him to Rhodes. William then goes to spend time with his daughter, Abby, who's clearly upset with him. She complains that he always prioritizes his job over her, constantly leaving her alone to protect Sophia. It's obvious that Abby resents his work as a bodyguard, especially after the time he nearly died when that deranged fan stabbed him. William tries to reassure her, telling her how much he loves her, but also explains he can't simply walk away from his duty. Meanwhile, we're introduced to a man named Jay, who receives a message from Paul. In the letter, Paul instructs him to pick up a package at the post office and then retrieve a large box from a car garage. We learn that Jay and Paul were childhood friends. At the end of the letter, Paul writes, "Sophia is going to be so happy when she sees my childhood friend." That night, Sophia heads out with Rhodes to a nightclub, completely unaware of what's about to unfold. In a chilling turn of events, the news reports that two extremely dangerous psychiatric patients, Paul and a woman named Penny, have escaped. Jay drives to a remote area near the facility to pick them up. Paul introduces Penny as a fellow patient who helped him escape by killing two guards. She's thrilled to attend Paul and Sophia's wedding. Penny greets Jay and asks about his eye injury, since one of his eyes is damaged and blind. Back at Sophia's villa, she returns home only to be greeted by a police officer and William. They break the terrifying news. Paul has escaped. She's overcome with fear. At the same time, Paul asks Jay to drive them to the house of Father Lusner. There, Penny knocks on the door, pretending to be an innocent young woman whose car broke down. But it's all a ruse. They assault the priest and take him hostage. We cut back to William, who's surprised when Rhodes walks in and demands to know why Sophia is so terrified. William tells him the whole story, how months ago, a deranged fan broke into the house, obsessed with forcing Sophia to marry him. Luckily, Sophia wasn't home at the time. William urges Rhodes to be patient with her, because her fear is very real. Later, William gets a phone call from Keller, his neighbor, the same woman who usually looks after his daughter Abby. She tells him she saw someone lurking near the house, watching from a distance. Alarmed, William urges her to lock all the doors and call the police, assuring her he's on his way. He then tells Rhodes to stay close to Sophia and not leave her side for even a moment. But just then, Rhodes stumbles upon a letter written by Sophia. In it, she coldly admits that she was only playing with him and never had real feelings. Devastated, Rhodes is visibly shaken. Meanwhile, Keller is met by a police officer, but he seems skeptical of her story. He dismisses the person she saw as likely just someone walking down the street. Keller insists she knows what she saw, but the officer still chooses to wait outside the house instead of taking action. At the same time, the gate guard notices a large box placed right outside the villa entrance. As he approaches and tries to inspect it, the power in the entire villa suddenly goes out. Startled, he abandons the box and rushes back to the control room. Inside, Sophia is terrified. Rhodes asks her where the circuit breakers are, but she nervously replies that she doesn't know the way. Still hurt by the letter he just read, Rhodes seizes the moment to confront her. He bluntly asks if she ever loved him at all. Sophia dodges the question, clearly frightened, and tries to calm him down so he won't leave her alone. They both head off to search for the electrical panel. Along the way, Rhodes vents his frustration, accusing Sophia of being selfish and only caring about herself. Fed up, Sophia snaps back, shouting that she doesn't need anyone to protect her. She can defend herself just fine. Back at the gatehouse, the guard is suddenly ambushed by Penny. She sneaks up behind him, stuns him with a taser, and electroshocks him until he collapses. She then opens the main gate, allowing Paul to slip inside the property. Inside the villa, Sophia runs to the front door, locks it with the deadbolt, and even climbs onto a chair to reinforce the lock, determined not to let anyone in. But she loses her balance, falls off the chair, and it breaks beneath her. She quickly gets up and rushes to secure all the windows. Suddenly, she hears a noise and starts calling out for Rhodes, but he doesn't respond. And then Paul appears silently behind her. He steps closer, whispering that he missed her so much. At that exact moment, Rhodes finally finds the power switch and flips it back on. The lights come back, illuminating Paul's face right in front of Sophia. Strangely, Paul begins to apologize to Sophia. He tells her he's sorry for getting locked up in the mental facility and for leaving her alone. Shocked and terrified, Sophia shoves him away and yells, "Stay away from me." But Paul insists on getting closer. Suddenly, she grabs whatever she can and starts throwing things at him, screaming for him to get out of her house. Rhodes hears her screams and rushes to the front door, but it's bolted shut from the inside. He tries to force it open, but Sophia can't unlock it either because the chair she used to reach the deadbolt is broken, and she can't reach the lock. Just then, Paul sneaks up behind her and slams her head into the door, knocking her unconscious. Meanwhile, Abby is with Keller, and she opens up about Paul and his obsession with Sophia. She reveals that Paul suffered a traumatic loss. He once planned to propose to his girlfriend during one of Sophia's concerts, but his girlfriend tragically died of a stroke right before the event. Since then, Paul became mentally unhinged, convincing himself that Sophia was actually his late girlfriend, and his obsession only grew. At that moment, William arrives and checks on Keller and Abby, relieved they're safe. He immediately asks where the police officer is, but Keller says he's downstairs. William is puzzled. He didn't see anyone when he came up. Then we learn the chilling truth. Jay attacked and killed the officer earlier. Back in the street, Jay pulls a gun on Abby and forces William into the car. He tells Keller to drive them to Sophia's house. Jay reveals that Paul is already there, waiting. Inside the villa, Paul gently carries Sophia to her bedroom, tending to the injury on her forehead. He then unlocks the door to let Penny in. When Sophia regains consciousness, she realizes she's locked inside her recording studio, with Paul sitting calmly on the other side of the glass, calling her Clarice. apparently the name of his deceased lover. Sophia is stunned, unsure how to respond to his delusion. Then comes the real shock. Paul tells her they're getting married today. Sophia tries to reason with him, gently telling him she's not Clarice, and that they can't get married. But Paul is adamant. He says he brought her a beautiful wedding dress, one she'll love, and that they'll get married in the same church she chose. He even tells her to put ice on her head injury so she'll look perfect for their big day. Realizing she has no choice, Sophia plays along with his fantasy. She tells him she wants to come out and show him the house first. Meanwhile, William tries to talk sense into Jay, telling him what he's doing is a crime and that Paul is mentally unstable. Jay snaps, furious, and yells, "Don't you dare talk about my best friend like that." He orders Keller to stop the car, drags William out, and coldly points the gun at his head. Then, without hesitation, he pulls the trigger. Jay returns to the car alone. Keller realizes what happened. William is dead. Shock floods her face, and Abby is devastated. She's just lost her father. Back at the villa, Paul cheerfully tells Sophia he has a surprise for her. He calls in Penny, announcing that she's admired Sophia for a long time and is thrilled to witness their wedding. That's when Sophia finally understands. Penny is just as insane as Paul. She can see the madness in her eyes and the blood all over her face. It's clear. Penny killed the front gate guard. Feeling cornered and terrified, Sophia pretends to cooperate, hoping to avoid provoking them. Paul gets dressed in his wedding suit, while Penny excitedly brings out a gown she insists Sophia must wear. At the same time, Jay arrives with Keller and Abby. Paul warmly greets them like guests at a celebration. Abby is visibly terrified, and Sophia can barely contain her fear as Penny's erratic behavior grows more disturbing. Sophia pleads with Penny to let her out of the room. Surprisingly, Penny agrees. Sophia grabs a guitar, ready to defend herself. She creeps toward the door, planning to strike Paul. But just then, Rhodes opens the door from the outside. Without realizing, Sophia hits him. Shocked, she rushes to help him up, apologizing repeatedly. Paul, meanwhile, forces Abby to bring out Father Losner, the priest he had stuffed inside a large box and kidnapped for the wedding. Then Penny enters the room, armed with a baseball bat. She strikes Rhodes, knocking him out cold. A violent struggle erupts between her and Sophia. Then, in a bizarre twist, Penny abruptly stops and runs to the piano, forcing Sophia to join her in playing and singing a duet, a deeply twisted performance. Sophia, horrified, plays along. Suddenly, Penny snaps again. She attacks Sophia and shoves her into a glass cabinet. The glass shatters. Penny drags her to the top of the stairs and pushes her down violently. She runs after her, asking mockingly, "Are you okay?" only to grab Sophia by the leg and resume beating her. Penny then douses Sophia with gasoline and prepares to set her on fire. But Sophia fights back, grabbing a sharp object and stabbing Penny in the stomach. Now the tables have turned. Sophia pours more gasoline on Penny and raises a lighter, ready to finish her. Penny only laughs and dares her, "Do it, kill me." Sophia hesitates, then lowers the lighter. She walks away. Instead, she rushes to Rhodes and tries to revive him. As she picks up the phone to call the police, Penny strikes again, trying to strangle her from behind. In a final act of desperation, Sophia drags Penny into the recording studio, locks her inside, and sets the room on fire, watching as flames consume the nightmare she's been trapped in. Rhodes regains consciousness. He sees what Sophia did, and she quickly explains, "That lunatic was going to kill me." She tells him she needs to go find help and runs off. Meanwhile, Paul gets impatient. Sophia and Penny are taking too long. He heads to the room and finds Penny's burnt body. Shocked, he turns to see Rhodes, but in his delusion, he sees Sophia standing before him. "The dress is beautiful," Paul says with a dreamy smile. Rhodes realizes Paul is completely detached from reality. To avoid provoking him, he plays along, pretending to be Sophia. At the same time, William turns out to be alive. Jay's shot had just grazed his head. Jay is blind in one eye, and the bullet missed. William hurries to the villa, but finds it empty. He quickly deduces that Paul has taken everyone to the church and alerts the police before rushing there himself. At the church, Paul stands before the altar with Father Losner and Jay awaiting the bride. Rhodes walks in, still pretending to be Sophia. Paul forces him to wear a wedding dress. With no other option, Rhodes obeys. William arrives. Paul greets him lovingly and asks him to witness the ceremony. William plays along to keep everyone safe, waiting for the right moment until the police arrive. Everyone remains calm. No one wants to trigger Paul. But Jay doesn't get it. He tries to tell Paul that Sophia is really a man. Paul refuses to believe it, and Rhodes insists, "I am Sophia," trying to protect the real Sophia. Watching Rhodes risk everything, Sophia feels overwhelmed with guilt and love. She steps forward and says, "This is all my fault. Let everyone else go. I'll stay with you." But Paul, lost in his madness, snaps at her. "Sit down, miss. Don't ruin my wedding." That's when it becomes terrifyingly clear. Paul is completely gone. Suddenly, Paul stabs Rhodes. William reacts fast. He shoots Paul, then tackles Jay, knocking him to the ground. Sophia grabs a knife and threatens Paul, eventually stabbing him too. But Jay isn't finished. He recovers, grabs a gun, and puts it to Abby's head, threatening to kill her. William drops his weapon, pleading for her life. In that tense moment, Rhodes, wounded but alive, rises and kills Jay, saving Abby and ending the madness. The police arrive moments later and arrest Paul, who's now fully consumed by his delusions, laughing to himself in a world that no longer exists. Afterward, William embraces his daughter, promising to leave behind his life as a bodyguard. And finally, Sophia confesses her love to Rhodes. They leave together, survivors of a nightmare. And that was our film for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.